Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Tour Catch-Up,
Fernandez and De Minaur delight in DC,
Sinner U-turns and rehires controversial fitness coach.
and Osaka splits with coach Mouratoglou.
Chris, today is the 28th of July, and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. The North American hard court swing is here. The Canada Open is just around the corner, and we are gearing up towards the road, the path to Flushing Meadows and the US Open. We had Washington DC, the combined event this week. We're going to be talking about De Minaur and Fernandez winning out there. We also had some European clay events. Chris, I can't wait to talk to you about these and sort of try and suppress my anger at how these events are still on the tour, but we're still going to be talking about Umag, Kitzbühel, and Prague as well. And big news, Osaka and Mouratoglou, that has gone splitsville. Sinner as well, rehiring his fitness coach in the heart of the clostebol controversy. We're going to be getting to that in the second half, as well as looking at the Canada Open draws. But Chris, I was not here last week. It was you and Kim on tour catch-up duty post Wimbledon. What did I miss?
Well, Joel, you missed my trip behind the bar of an English pub in Sweden.
Yes,
so
I heard about this.
Kim said she's going
to...
Yeah, well, Kim's going to come next year, so we just need you to complete the set. So if there's potentially a Baby Guinness involved, can we convince you?
Oh, absolutely. If Baby Guinness are involved, definitely right up my street. I also enjoyed Kim bringing out every Spanish player under the sun, specifically Spanish players with their first name Albert.
Yes, she's fantastic at her Spanish knowledge. Probably her best topic is Spanish doubles players. But you weren't here last week because you were actually in a field somewhere, I believe.
Yes, I was in a field with terrible phone reception, but I was at a music festival in Oxfordshire. And what was quite interesting, at this music festival, there was a fancy dress theme. And the fancy dress theme was things beginning with the letter T. And I thought I was going to be getting away, escaping tennis weekly podcast universe for at least a week. But oh no, I was there, and all of a sudden I saw people dressed as tennis balls. I saw people dressed as tennis players. I saw some John McEnroe wigs, some very tight fitting white shorts as well. So tennis did not escape me.
Was any Tsitsipases in the field with you?
There was no Tsitsipas. We did not go that deep.
No deep cuts. Yeah, makes sense.
There was enough kind of tennis there to keep me involved. The only struggle I had was with phone signal, and I was kind of relentlessly trying to kind of refresh kind of live scores and
the
updates.
Umag scores. You do love this part of the tour. I've got to bring it up, Joel. This might be your most disliked part of the season because I love the clay. You don't particularly like the 2-week Masters or the clay.
I just needed to find out how Darderi was getting on, Chris.
Yes. Can he go back to back?
Yes.
Yeah, we did, Joel. Spoiler alert.
Well. Yeah, I know. I mean, listeners, I'm not going to lie. I don't understand this sort of clay part 2 after Wimbledon. I don't understand it. Why don't we just go to America? But I'm going to suppress those feelings when we come on to those.
The enthusiasm will rise. You have some time before we get there. But whilst you were not having signal, did you manage to get enough signal for something to capture your attention, Joel?
Indeed, I did. And something I really enjoyed was out in Washington, DC.
It wasn't going to be anywhere else, was it?
No, it wasn't. It involved, though, a player we talk about a lot on the podcast, Maria Sakkari. And she had a match against Emma Navarro where, she was doing a very nice thing. She spotted a bug in peril on the tennis court, wanted to do good for nature and the environment, picked up the bug and put it to one side. And the commentators, they were lapping it up. They were like, "Oh, Maria Sakkari, she's done a great thing. Good work, taking care of the local wildlife." Conservationist Maria Sakkari, exactly. Did the ball kid get the memo? No, they did not, because within a few seconds, there was just a kind of a squish, just fully captured on the TV cameras. Oof. And the end of the life of the bug happened via the ball kid.
So very sad for the wildlife involved, but comedic timing. Did it deliver, Joel?
It did. It did deliver, and it did make me think. On a serious note, should there be like
a policy?
Like environmental policy, because I know like that's a big thing, particularly in tournaments in America, where those sorts of conditions can lead to these kind of moments. It's, to be honest, a reason why I would never be a ball kid out there, because I would be useless with
you'd run away like if you saw a big grasshopper.
I'd be like to Maria, like, please, can you just go sort it out on your own? I'm not getting involved. But yeah, I mean, that aside, what caught your attention this week?
Well, now I think there's a follow-up I've got to think about in terms of, should there be a policy? We'll ask maybe our social media as to whether there should be. But well, actually, there is the hawk at Wimbledon who's purely there to kind of get rid of pigeons. So maybe it's all okay. But something that caught my something that caught my eye was that Leylah Fernandez actually went onto social media. This is the champion of DC. This is prior to her becoming the champion, I believe. So now she knows anyone who does respond to her ask, she's looking for a date, and anyone who responds after that, well, she know maybe they're just Glory supporters, because she has 1 hour free in Montreal. She does not like dating apps, and she said apply in her DMs because she's looking for love. So I thought this was quite interesting. Not seen this before, that someone has kind of done such a public sort of crowdsourcing of potentially their future partner. But yes, she said feel free to apply and write a bit about yourself. So it's not just about what you look like. It's very nice, Leylah, anyone who has encountered her. So let's see how this goes for her. I think maybe the internet might not be as nice as she thinks.
I know, it's very wholesome. It's very, very wholesome. It reminds me, and another Canadian tennis player, and one we're going to be talking about in the second half, because coming up to retirement in the tennis world very, very soon, Eugenie Bouchard. Because do you remember, like back in the day, there was like a Super Bowl kind of dating bet?
She lost a bet and then had to go on a date with somebody. And it was a blind date, she said. So everyone was quite worried about this. But I think it went quite well. I'm not sure they went on a second date. But, I mean, maybe that's why Leylah's like putting some rules in place. 1 hour, you can't be giving away a whole evening. She's got to keep in the training. I mean, Bouchard, maybe now she probably has a bit more time to go on dates if she is retiring. But, I mean, shoot your shot for Leylah Fernandez. Let's hope nice people apply. And this is our sort of plea for nice, eligible people in the Montreal area. Leylah Fernandez is open in the DMs.
And 1 hour, Chris. I mean, that's a perfect time to catch up.
It's longer than the Wimbledon women's final.
Catch up on an episode of Tennis Weekly podcast. There you go. Got to get the promotion in there, Leylah. That's the best thing you can do on your date. Listen to the Tennis Weekly
or prepare for your date with Leylah Fernandez by listening to us.
Right, let's move on and catch up. And we're going to be talking more about Leylah Fernandez, because we're going to be looking at the Washington DC event. Now, this is a combined event, Chris. We're going to be talking about the women's event first of all. Leylah Fernandez is your champion, straight sets over Anna Kalinskaya. Not really much to write home about in terms of the final. Very kind of one-sided, but Fernandez, a great champion. I think this is her 4th career WTA singles title, first at 500 level. I mean, dating shenanigans aside, what did you make of Fernandez's week out in DC? Because I feel like maybe for a lot of our listeners, we know her as that player who got to the US Open final all those years ago, and were actually perhaps looking at a mouth-watering prospect of another face-off between Fernandez and Raducanu, which we didn't get. But just focusing on her, how did you look at her performances across the week?
So impressed with her. She hasn't really had that much form this year. I think she had those moments where she picked up titles, like she picked up a title in Acapulco, I think a couple of times. She tends to have those moments where you see a little bit more of that form that took her all the way to the final of the US Open. But she tends to be a little bit underpowered in some of those matches, a bit like Raducanu has been really, where, some of the ball striking of some of the other girls on the tour is that bit bigger, and you have to have a lot of faith in that second serve. And I think sometimes she's fallen a bit foul of that, but she deserved this title more than anyone, because she took out the top seed, Jessica Pegula. I mean, she bounced back from losing a set 6-1, and JPEG does not give you wins easily. She's one of those very consistent competitors who really does sort of, I mean, you always see her at the semi-finals. She rarely loses to players that are ranked below her. And she managed to take her out and then backed it up with a win over Townsend. And then probably the biggest statement win was that result against Raducanu, which was 3 tie-break sets. I mean, what a thriller. Great standard of tennis.
This was almost effectively the final, wasn't it?
It was based on the match that we saw in the final. And a recurring theme of Washington was that players in the final who've never won a title still remain titleless, because Kalinskaya has never won a title either, and neither has Davidovich Fokina. So very impressed with Leylah. A question I'd ask you, Joel, was did anyone else catch your eye in the draw? You have two answers I'll accept. And which one are you going to go with?
Well, it's got to be Emma Raducanu.
Not Venus Williams?
Well, we need to get to Venus, and she definitely deserves all the plaudits. But from a British point of view, I was impressed with Raducanu. I mean, I was so looking forward to Raducanu versus Osaka, and the way Raducanu came through that in, straight sets, and then backed it up against Sakkari as well to reach the semi-finals. I thought that was a really good performance to kind of kick on from Wimbledon, get the ranking points, and hopefully push towards getting a seeding for the US Open, because I think that's, again, it's sort of the same goal, I think, versus in the build-up to Wimbledon. And with the tennis, I think she was showing in this week, I certainly think she's got some big opportunities. And in that Osaka match, I think what I was most impressed by was the serve. She's serving really well. She's got a lot of oomph, I feel, on her serve. And I think that's maybe one of the differences with the games, and the trajectories perhaps with kind of Fernandez versus Raducanu, because both players, you sort of look and think, how much power do they bring to the court? But I think Raducanu's worked on that aspect of her game a bit more.
She has. The serve looked really, really good this week. I think it's the first time it hasn't looked like a liability in a little while. I think probably Wimbledon, to give her credit where credit's due. I think Queens, I think some of the work she's done with her coaches has really helped her, because it was such a big weapon for her, especially that big sort of swinging serve out wide at the US Open when she won the title. She was winning cheap points off it, and she is again. The second serve, I feel like she was going for a bit more. So I thought it was a great run for her. I also loved the fact that she's actually playing double duty, which is something we didn't think she'd be doing. Clearly, Mark Petchey or
you
someone.
You were said to be the WhatsApp messages saying ER squared, and I was really confused what you meant by that.
I didn't realise until I was very much in the trenches watching these matches every night. But they both have the same initials, so ER squared. I probably would have gone for ×2, but either way, loved this. Loved the fact that she played with Raducanu, and loved the fact that she's playing more tennis, because I think it really did sort of help her return. I also kind of loved the way that they talked about how it came together, because they're both quite chill people, I'd say. And I think Emma was just at the practice court, and she thought, you know what, it'd be good to get some extra doubles in. And I think, do you remember years ago in 2022, they did appear in an entry list for doubles, but they never took to the court.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I think maybe there was some unfinished business there, because this time it did come together. And so she just saw Rebecca in a practice and thought, you know what, I'll just give it a shot and ask her. And she goes, I wasn't really bothered if she said no. And then apparently she said, yeah, sure. So I think that was quite fun seeing them, because you don't often see them playing that much doubles. And I think it's just nice seeing them both enjoying their tennis, because I think at times it's been quite tricky for them, whether it's the media spotlight or whether it's the pressures from the coach. So I think when you're enjoying yourself, we always talk about this, double success can bring single success. And if you're a player who hasn't had a huge number of matches, I think it really can help you kind of sharpen up some of those key moments.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you look at Raducanu's schedule and you could arguably say she doesn't play a lot, too many tournaments, but maybe perhaps when those tournaments she does play, maybe she can literally double down and play both the singles and doubles. Because,
yeah.
When I was at Queens and, speaking to her there, where again, she kind of played doubles, and she was kind of talking about, it's a really good learning opportunity for singles players. It almost feels like the pressure is off. You can have a little bit more fun, a little bit more kind of
try
opportunity
some things,
to experiment.
Maybe. Yeah,
exactly. So would you like to see Raducanu kind of continue this and play more doubles? Because they did quite well, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I think it probably does make my point that the best doubles players are singles players.
You love bringing up this point.
I do, because they did not play doubles together. At times they played singles. There was a lot of balls they both went for. It was not pretty. Lots of kind of for the highlights reel, but also quite a lot they probably would want to forget from a doubles perspective. And they took out some pretty good seeded doubles pairs along the way. So I think Raducanu would be a fantastic doubles player. I also think it's good to play, as you say, when she is on the court. I hope she plays more. So if she is keen, please do maybe mixed doubles, women's doubles, and singles at the US Open. But also, please don't get injured. But one player who also doubled up was Venus Williams, who got 2 wins. Her first 2 wins were in the doubles and then the singles, where she won the first round, upsetting Peyton Stearns. And not many thought this would happen. No. That's a top 40 player, that 45-year-old Venus Williams, pretty much dismantled, Joel.
I know, it was an unbelievable result. I was in shock, actually, I was actually in shock, first of all, when I actually got signal on my phone at the festival. And then I saw this result coming through and I just was like, what's happened here? And instantly, being sort of a critic, and I shouldn't have thought this originally, I actually thought, oh, Peyton Stearns hasn't turned up to this tennis match, or, she's played, below par today. But when I watched back the highlights, like, Venus Williams was on an absolute tear. Like, I was amazed by the level that she brought. I think maybe there were a little bit of nerves, which are understandable right at the beginning. But once she got into full flow, I mean, some of those winners she was hitting, it was a joy to behold.
I mean, she has talent. She has the game. She is so good at what she does, and she's such a clean ball striker. I think the big difference between this comeback was something that I mentioned on the last podcast, is the footwork. I think she's very much prepared for the movement that it requires. I think it's an incredible achievement of what she's able to do. I think when so many people don't think you'll be able to do it, and she says, I'm not doing it to prove anyone wrong. I'm playing tennis because I love to play tennis and I want to be here. And that joy of her playing and getting that win, I made me very emotional watching it, because it is one of those things that really can inspire anybody in whatever they do. So I'm all for Venus proving people wrong, but doing it for herself.
Justify the wild card?
I think if you can beat a top 40 player, I think it does justify the wild card. I think probably playing 3 matches, playing daily might have been a bit too much, for the body when you are coming back to the tour, having not played in 18 months, I think, or 16 months since her last match. I do think the worst sort of opponent for her is a Frech, though, because she gets everything back. Lots of drop shots, lots of counter punching, lots of absorbing the pace, and not many errors. So I think she needs some good draws, but at the same time, who can count out Venus from doing something special?
And before we move on to talk about Prague, Venus Williams, the oldest player now on the WTA Tour to win a singles match since Martina Navratilova won at Wimbledon in 2004. Navratilova was 47 years old. Venus Williams at the moment is 45 years old. Do you think Venus Williams could break the record?
I think she's only going to finish when she's done. And I'm not sure she's done yet. I think we might see in some form of appearance, I think Serena and Venus have got a prediction. They will be involved in some way at the LA Olympics. So
interesting.
That's what I'm thinking. The story comes full circle. But I mean, Navratilova, she did well to win that at Wimbledon. I think she wasn't necessarily expecting to do that. And I remember watching that one. This is what I was doing. 6-love, 6-1. So she won that one pretty emphatically against a player who I think was seeded there. So very impressive. And I mean, very excited to see what happens next.
Yeah, definitely. The story is not a closed book at the moment for Venus Williams. Very excited to see what happens. Who knows? Will Serena Williams get involved? I would love to see them two back on the tour.
Even just once, right?
Even just once. Just chuck all the wild cards at them. I don't care. Just make that happen. But let's wait and see. But moving on, Chris, let's talk about Prague quickly, because we did have the live sport Prague Open where we had an all-Czech final between Linda Noskova, the top seed, and Marie Bushkova. Bushkova came through in 3 sets from a set down, 2-6, 6-1, 6-3. That is Bushkova's second tour title. She has had a lot of finals where they have gone to 3 sets, and she has lost that deciding set with the trophy on the line. So it must have been felt pretty good to get one from a set down against the top seed, against your fellow compatriot as well, who I feel like is a little bit more sort of critically revered, let's say, versus maybe yourself. I mean, what did you make of Bushkova's performance out in Prague?
Well, I mean, she does do pretty well on home soil. I think she's won in Prague before. So maybe it's a case that in those tight matches, it does help her get over the line. Obviously, the crowd would probably be split as to who they were supporting. So I think she did really, really well. Noskova was playing some great tennis. She had quite a tough draw. I mean, playing against Siniakova as an unseeded player is pretty tricky. We know that she's so handy on both the singles and a doubles court. I mean, I didn't pay as much attention to this one when Kim's favourites went out, Ann Lee and Sramkova. So I didn't watch the whole of the final, but either way, I think it makes sense to play on a hard court before you head to the US swing, which is something that the men weren't really doing, were they?
No, indeed. And we're going to move on now to talk about the ATP events that happened this week. And we're going to go back to Washington and the event out there where Alex de Minaur captured his first title of the season against Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. Now, Chris, this is a bit of a sad story, a sad moment for Fokina, because once again, he snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. And the credit him must go, first of all, to de Minaur, because he really pulled a rabbit out of the hat. I mean, he was a set down, responded with a breadstick 6-1, and then he was 5-3, love 30 down to come back in the third set to win in a tie break, deciding tie break. Saved 3 championship points as well. One of his shots, a lob, just about caught the line. I think I was reading it was in by 17 millimeters. We talk about the margins of victory and defeat, title or no title.
My goodness.
For de Minaur, this was so impressive mentally, given the situations he found himself in the final.
Really impressive. Again, you have to feel though for Davidovich Fokina, because he has lost for championship point down quite a few times in his career.
Already this season, I think.
Yeah, it's true. It's very, very unfortunate for him that this is something that clearly he's not able to get over the line. There's a big mental block there. And it's very hard to get over that. I think that's
what is it? What is it? Because Davidovich Fokina, he's a great player. What is it that is stopping him kind of reach for his first tour title?
I think, unfortunately, it does have to be the belief in those key moments. I think the tension must get to him. He's been up in quite a few situations. The one where he probably doesn't have to be kind of too sad about is when he lost to Machak in Mexico. But in Delray Beach against Kecmanovic, I mean, that one probably was weighing on his mind this time, because this is a big tournament. It's a 500. He was so close to getting that title, and he's a player who deserves the title. So I think it doesn't get easier until you do it. And maybe he needs to give, Felix Auger-Aliassime a call, because he's the king of losing finals before you get it. And it doesn't mean that you won't be able to turn it around. But I mean, he really did play some great tennis. And you almost feel like when you're knocking out all the Americans on home soil, you do sort of deserve it, but you still got to win that last point.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the matches won this season. I mean, they're both up there in the top 5. De Minaur now has 35 match wins. Davidovich Fokina has 32 match wins. It's just getting over.
And he got married. How's he managed to do all of that?
But yeah, I mean, for Fokina, it's like he still doesn't have that statement victory, and it's certainly one of these ones where I feel like he's doing it the hard way. And even these big tournaments, you're going to come up against tough players who want it, and de Minaur is such a nightmare, isn't he?
It's a human wall, isn't he? Really,
yeah. Especially when you're a lower ranked player as well. I still think there's maybe some questions still around kind of those top ranked players, but when you're in that kind of 20, 30, 40 bracket coming up against de Minaur, it is such a challenge.
Yeah, it really is. And I also think that something else that caught my eye, I'm not sure if you did see this, Joel, but do you see any of Medvedev Mute? That was a wild one.
Yes. Mute got to the semi-finals.
He did. He had a really good run, and that was one of the most dramatic match points I've ever seen. That match had it all, and Medvedev was as furious as I've ever seen him. But, I mean, Mute had a good run. He even took out Dan Evans, who won a couple of matches, who was given a wild card, having won the title, but not come back to defend it, but to play... Yeah. He chose to play doubles with Andy Murray. So I thought that was nice that he got a few wins. And, Norrie also did pretty well, taking out Musetti. So some Brits were doing well. Americans did make it further, but not quite as far as we thought. I thought this had a US winner all over it.
It was 16 millimeters. So apologies, I have to correct myself.
I mean, that's miles up. And if you think about the error that they have on Hawkeye, I mean, it probably was really in.
Yeah, if they had the Wimbledon Hawkeye, maybe it would have been called.
Yeah, Pavlyuchenkova was fuming.
Yeah. I mean, we did have a couple of other events in Kitzbühel and Umag, and Chris, this just felt like the
copy paste
continuation of like last week, because Bublik was the champion out in Kitzbühel, defeated the Frenchman Cazot, straight sets in the final. And then we had Darderi in Umag against Taberner of Spain, again in straight sets. So I don't know. I feel like, for example, for Bublik, it's almost like we're in the Casper Ruud stat padding kind of moment. This is like the moment in the season to do it.
I mean, blink and he won 2 more titles. I think he's got the form. It's very much a part of the year where you see players who want some ranking points guaranteed. It's a good chance to get some titles as well. Berrettini's done it before, where he's cleaned up in this section before heading over to the US swing. And I think it probably does make sense tactically for Bublik, because it is quite barren when it comes to the top players in these draws. So he's getting it done. He looked pretty impressive in that final. And I think most of the tournament, he looked, I mean, pretty much untouchable. He was a class above, didn't drop a set. And then I think a bit trickier when you look at the results from Umag for Darderi, who I saw win in Bostar last week. He did drop a set at one point, but again, very similar results and not the highest quality tennis on display.
The draw, not the greatest draw either, let's be honest.
It was very much giving challenger, but at the same time, you know, these events are really well run. It's just a really unfortunate part of the season where it almost gets squeezed even more because of the fact that these Masters are becoming 2 weeks, that if you do want to get some practice on the hard court before you end up playing in a big tournament, you have to actually leave these ones behind, even if you were keen to play them. So tricky part of the schedule, but...
Do you want these tournaments to be on the schedule? Because I think there'll be listeners out there being like, why are these tournaments existing? We don't really have a sort of clean break really from grass to hard. Do you feel like there's a space for these clay events post grass court season?
I mean, they've always been around this sort of time. It's not a new thing. I think when you talk about the injuries that players get and the fact that the season is so long, it's a natural time where players might skip them, top players, for example. But, you know, we do have the golden swing as well, where that's not necessarily... It's quite early before the clay season actually has begun proper, which doesn't necessarily feel like it has like the most natural place there. I mean, I love the Golden Swing. I think they've suffered because Hamburg has moved before the French Open, so there is no 500. It really is just 250 after 250 after 250. So that's probably why it feels a little bit less relevant this year. But again, these are wonderful events. It's just a shame that because of the nature of the licenses and the calendar, you actually can't necessarily give them the time to shine or attract the level of player that some of the locals would love to see.
Right, we're going to take a quick break now. Do join us in the second half, where we will be discussing Jannik Sinner reappointing his fitness coach to his team, Naomi Osaka's split with coach Patrick Mouratoglou, and we look ahead as the Canada Open gets underway in Toronto and Montreal. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast. And Chris, we're going to kick off with a par for the courts for the second half. A par for the courts from me. I've been storing this up for this moment in the season.
Did you think of it in the field? Were you Googling it with no signal?
Yes. Do you know, I did have one other idea in mind, but I thought it was a little bit too British centric. I might keep it for another time.
Maybe later a Davis Cup special.
Yeah, I might keep it later in the year when it might not be as fresh. But this par for the courts is going to be Canada themed.
Oh.
And you might already kind of guess where this might be heading, and so maybe our listeners. And I would like to ask you, there are 14 male winners of the Canada Open since the year 2000.
Oh, wow, yes.
How many of those can you and our listeners name? I'm going to set par at 8.
And how many were there?
14.
Right.
There are some big names in here. There are some surprising names in here. There was a year when it didn't happen because of the pandemic.
Do I get a point if I identify that year? No.
You can tell me that if you want a bit of brownie points. Yes,
right.
I'll give you that. But where are you starting?
High. Well, I think I like to do something that Kim never likes to do, which is to say the obvious answer first.
Okay.
And I do know who won it last year. I know that Popyrin won it.
That is correct. Yeah, Alexei Popyrin is one of those champions. So you're off to a good start. That is one correct answer.
I also know that Jannik Sinner won it the year before that.
Correct. Yep. Jannik Sinner on the list.
And then it gets a bit trickier. You said there were some big names on there, so I'm guessing Novak Djokovic.
Novak Djokovic is correct. How many titles has Novak Djokovic got? Would be my kind of follow-up question to that.
Maybe I'll go for a cheeky 5.
He has got 4.
Oh.
Yep. So anyway,
not as many as I thought.
So that's 3 correct answers. So Popyrin, Sinner, Djokovic.
I know Murray's won it.
He has indeed. Correct answer. How many times?
Has he won it twice?
He's won it 3 times.
Oh, yeah. I'm underestimating him.
So there you go. That's 4 correct answers. So you're halfway there.
I feel very far away still because I'm already struggling slightly. And what was the date they had to have won it after?
So 2000 and beyond.
Okay.
This millennium.
I think Federer must have won it.
Federer is a correct answer. Yes, very good. Only won it twice though. But yes, he is on the list.
Well, maybe it's similar to this year when not everyone is playing it. So maybe he skipped a few.
2004, 2006, Roger Federer won it. But yes, that is now you're now on 5. So you're getting very close to par score.
Right. I have a vision. I think PCB won it. I think it was a really strange one. And I seem to remember watching him beat Hurkacz in the final. So I'm going to go Pablo Carreno Busta.
PCB?
PCB.
That is correct. Very good. He is a winner. He won it before Jannik Sinner won it. But yes, he is a correct answer. So that is 6. 2 more.
This is tricky. I did that one for Kim. That would have been Kim's first answer, I'm sure. Kim's second answer, would it have been Rafa? Maybe. I'm actually not sure about this one.
Rafa?
I feel like him on a hard court. Did it go well for him?
That is a correct answer. And perhaps most surprising, he's won it 5 times.
He's won it more than Djokovic.
Yeah, he's won it 5 times. Yeah. Who would have thought?
Is it one more answer?
So you got one more answer to get par score.
I don't get any lifelines like I gave the girls last week.
You're too good at this game. So sadly, no lifelines this week. I'm looking for one more answer.
I don't think Alcaraz has won it. I don't think Dimitrov's won. I'm trying to think who might be. I'm going to get pushed for time here. I think Medvedev. He's had some really good US swings going into the US Open previously, but I'm not sure if it's Cincinnati or which ones he's won. But I'm going to say Medvedev.
Medvedev?
Mm.
That is a correct answer. Well done, Chris. He won it the year after the pandemic cancelled it in 2020.
Wow.
So he was the first post-pandemic champion. But yes,
I obviously knew that as well. No idea. That was a guess.
List. So that's 8. Any other ideas? Any other names? Care to throw at me?
Has Safin won it? I was thinking I've watched that on Tennis Channel repeats once.
Yeah, he won it in the year 2000 against Harold Levy of Israel, I believe. Do not know that name, but yeah.
Sampras, has he won it?
No Sampras. There is
Agassi.
An American you could have given me.
Does he have a podcast?
He does indeed.
Doesn't narrow it down. There are so many of them. Was it Andy Roddick?
Andy Roddick won it in 2003.
Anyone else? I have nobody now, Joel.
Pete Sampras may have won it before 2000. I haven't got the list before that, but he didn't win it after.
I'm not
the
definitely
year
wrong then.
So yeah, you could have had Marat Safin, Andy Roddick, Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic, Andy Murray, Daniel Medvedev, PCB, Sinner, Popyrin. Here are some names you didn't give me. Alexander Zverev.
Oh, when was that?
That was in 2017. Defeated Roger Federer in the final in straight sets.
That's not. I don't remember that at all.
Joe Wilfried Songa. 2014 champion.
Well done.
And then we are going way back to 2001 and 2002. Probably the hardest names on the board. Very well done if you got any of these two, listeners. Andre Pavel and Guillermo Cañas.
Wow.
An Argentinian winning the Canada Open. Interesting.
Who would have thought? Well, thank you very much for that, Joel. I think I feel very pleased with that, but I do think I just got lucky when you said some big names have won it. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would have even guessed Nadal.
Right. Well, listeners, do let us know. How did you get on with our Par for the Courts Canada-themed edition? Do let us know. But we're going to move on now and talk about a couple of big talking points that have come out over the last couple of weeks. Last week, Chris. We're going to get on to Coaching Corner in a sec, but Jannik Sinner, even though he's not playing any tennis, we still have to talk about Jannik Sinner. We have to talk about clostebol. We have to talk about his suspension because he has reappointed the fitness coach, Umberto Ferrara, who he parted ways with sort of immediately following this investigation where he tested positive for a banned substance. And, this has taken a lot of people, I think, by surprise. I think some people don't really know what to make of it, but to kind of reappoint effectively someone who was very much at the heart of the scandal as a part of Jannik Sinner's team, to appoint him now in the build-up to the US Open. What was your immediate reaction to this?
I did give it a bit of an eye roll because I just thought, here we go again. You're definitely inviting in a lot of criticism. But at the same time, I think his Wimbledon triumph actually opened up the whole doping issue again with Iga Swiatek, obviously, and Jannik Sinner winning at Wimbledon, and the fact that the headlines, especially in British media and US media, did actually bring that back to light, because a lot of people who don't always follow the tour weren't aware of that. So I think maybe from his team, this was an inevitable thing when he did actually say he was playing Wimbledon without having a fitness coach or a physio. It probably should have kind of got us thinking, hang on a minute, this is very unusual. What's going on, especially firing some people who worked with Djokovic, who are, they're very good at what they do. It did seem a bit surprising. In terms of what's happened, I mean, I don't necessarily think anyone is particularly pleased about this. I think if you're a Sinner fan, this man almost cost you like Jannik Sinner's career and his reputation. I think that's something that really is concerning, is that even if you have the utmost trust in him, I imagine you did before, your fitness trainer handed the banned substance to your physio and then used it on you. So I think if you're a Sinner fan, you should be very concerned by this news. And I think, to be honest...
Do you not think you can forgive and forget? Is there a sort of an argument to say kind of, we all make mistakes and, let's kind of move on? Do you buy that sort of approach?
I think everyone should get a second chance when it comes to the nature of what his trainer has done. I think dependent on what the results came out of whether it was a big ban or a short ban, I think then some people, if they test positive for an awful lot, they don't deserve a second chance because they've obviously cheated. I don't think that's what's happened here. It's his prerogative. You can hire whoever you want. It does make me think when it was announced that they parted ways at the same time that the failed tests were announced prior to the US Open, that was for the optics, that was for the PR of it, that it had to look like he wanted to get rid of them. But it does seem like he never really wanted to, and that he was very happy with them, despite the fact they actually did potentially, cause him to have a 2-year ban, if not more. So I think it's bold. It does say, I don't care what you think, I'm going to do what's right for me. And I think making the decision, it is on you. And if something else happens, unfortunately, I mean, you will look quite silly for the fact that you did do this and you are inviting in a lot of criticism. But do you think that this should be raising as many eyebrows as it actually is?
I think for me, the tour moves so fast that, timing, I think, is always so important. And there's not many clear kind of moments, I think, to kind of announce this sort of thing. And this is really the only kind of pause or breath that we can catch, really, I think, before we kind of gear up and focus on Sinner and his quest to, win the US Open this year. So I think from a timing perspective, I guess it makes sense. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, has the fire been kind of, is the fire still hot? Is the situation still kind of warm, and is this stoking the fire more, or actually has it kind of cooled out and actually, we all make mistakes and we can move on? That's the bit I'm still a little bit kind of, sort of questioning. But I do think that, this is a guy that Sinner trusts, and regardless of kind of what, has happened, and, he did have, those, he had, Marco Panici, who's gone on to kind of join Holger Rune, and Ulysses Badio, who he kind of let go before Wimbledon. And I think it just shows you need people you can trust. And obviously Jannik Sinner trusts this guy a lot. So regardless of what you think he has or hasn't done, for Sinner, it's a trust issue. And he knows that he can trust this guy. And that means that he can focus on his tennis, which he needs to do. So,
yeah, the only thing I'd say in defense of it is, once you have made such a big mistake, you're so much less likely to do it again. I mean, imagine how strict they would be in terms of what substances get anywhere near Jannik Sinner now. So maybe he feels like that risk has gone. But part of me does just think that, the Sinner camp is just laughing at us. The fact that, that this was maybe always the plan, that this was always going to happen. There were conversations that went on prior to this. We don't know. But it does feel like they were always going to reunite if the ban obviously was not considerable, and maybe it was forgivable because it was such a short, convenient ban that happened in the end. But I mean, the tour moves on. I think this probably will be the point when hopefully we can all move on. But just when you think that things are moving on, Joel, sort of the Sinner doping case, it comes back.
It does indeed. I mean, there was a statement. They did say Umberto has played an important role in Jannik's development to date, and his return reflects a renewed focus on continuity and performance at the highest level. The decision has been made in alignment with Jannik's management team as part of ongoing preparations for upcoming tournaments, including the Cincinnati Open and US Open. So it says to me, like, you can do what you want. If I trust you and it's more of a continuity thing, if it was a mistake and an accident, it's almost like water under the bridge. Let's move on. And I think when you've got kind of players around you like Carlos Alcaraz, and you need to be as focused as possible on your tennis, you need to have 100% trust in them.
And your best team, right? You want the best team.
You need your best team. Exactly.
The A team. Exactly. I do get that. I think the thing that will always be a bit strange is that, it was the entourage, and he was part of the entourage who actually did cause this big issue, if you do believe the story. And that's what has been deemed as being the fault here, not Sinner. Sinner's been said to bear, he bore no fault or negligence for this. It was the entourage. So we will see. We'll see how this goes, and we have to hope that it doesn't end as badly as it did last time.
Exactly. Right, let's move on, because we do have a couple of coaching updates to give to you and our listeners.
Always so many coaching.
But we have quite a big one here, because Naomi Osaka and Patrick Mouratoglou have gone splitsville. It was announced amicably, it has to be said, on social media. Osaka wrote an Instagram story saying, "Mercy, Patrick. It was such a great experience learning from you. Wishing you nothing but the best. You are one of the coolest people I've ever met, and I'm sure I'll see you around." Mouratoglou, in response, also said, "I will always root for you and wish you nothing but the best." Chris, this, I guess, was on the cards. We haven't necessarily seen Osaka set the tennis world alight in the way that she probably would have hoped, coming from this partnership. But how would you reflect on the time they have had together, and whether there have been any sort of promising signs that Osaka can take from this moment?
I mean,
or not? Is it just like you got to kind of rinse your hands with it and move on? Didn't work and move on.
I mean, she did win Sant Melo on 125 on clay. I mean, that's about as much sort of silverware that she did bring home. I don't think it ever felt like the right partnership. I don't think that the nature of Mouratoglou's personality would go that well with Osaka. I think it is just a bit too much of a clash of styles in that respect, because I think that she shouldn't necessarily have also gone near someone who coached Serena, because for her, it was such a mental block for her. She did talk about, after the Roland Garros loss, when I was in the press room, she said that she felt like she was working with such an amazing coach who had had all the success with Serena, and then she's working with essentially calling herself a failure in comparison, that she wasn't living up to that sort of...
She's quite vocal about that, wasn't she?
It's tough to hear, and it doesn't make you think that maybe she does have this sort of like guilt about not performing as well as she knows he can help players to perform. But having said that, it didn't work with Holger. It hasn't worked with a few players actually in the past. And Serena seems to be slightly the anomaly when it comes to the biggest successes. I mean, she's had an unbelievable career, and that was later on in her career as well. So I don't know what we can draw from it, but it does just feel like it was to try and say that she had tried everything. And now I'm not sure what she will be doing, because there's no logical path I see right now that will get her back to a space that will involve like a coach. I think it would be working on herself and how she sees herself and how she enjoys the game and how she puts too much pressure on herself. And it's tough. I honestly don't know what will happen next, but I do think we saw this coming.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily sound like a kind of coaching issue. It feels more of a psychological issue, because from the posts that Osaka puts out, it feels like she's putting this expectation on herself, these big expectations on herself because of this partnership with Mouratoglou. And as you mentioned, the success that he has had, I think specifically in the women's game with Serena Williams, I think Osaka is probably putting herself on that level and creating a lot of pressure that I think, as looking at those social posts, it's in her head. It's something that I think she is thinking about probably a bit too much. She needs a coach who's going to get her kind of focusing on the next point, or what shot to play, or just keep her focus on the tennis, as opposed to maybe the optics,
the legacy. I think legacy is a big thing for her, and like it hasn't gone the way that she wanted the comeback to go. And I don't think she ever thought she would be partnering with a Patrick Mouratoglou either. She had such great success, with Wim Fissette. That was a really great setup. Do you think it was a sign of
desperation of to go with someone such a big name? Or
I think she felt she needed a big change. So I don't think it's necessarily desperation, but I think it was to do something she wouldn't normally do, because what she was currently doing wasn't working. So I understand the thought process there, but I do think when you see, like, she's saying she's sorry to Patrick, it's not Patrick's fault, it's my fault. It's like, it's no one's fault, Naomi. Like, sometimes you lose and you win, and sometimes you play well, you don't play well. And I think that's something which I just want the next partnership to make her feel like she's not letting anyone down. There's no one to let down, and for her to just play for herself, because I think there's so much pressure that she puts on her own shoulders that maybe doesn't come from other people, but she kind of wants to do well for them. So who would you like to see her partner with next? Is there like Goran's available? Is that a good one, Joel?
I'm not quite sure. What
about Murray?
Sure.
What about Andy?
I mean, Andy could be there, but again, I don't know if there's that. Is there a pressure or an expectation there?
True.
Does she actually need like a nobody, like someone we don't really like?
What about Kim?
About? Yeah. I don't know. I think like maybe she's tried one end of the spectrum. Maybe it's needs to go for someone who doesn't want the spotlight, isn't a personality, doesn't have lots of other kind of commitments maybe going on as well. I think maybe would it could be a good approach, because certainly I think that the talent is there. It's always been there, but it's just getting it out on a tennis court consistently that has been a real struggle. And I think what's a shame is that I just don't think we see the Osaka that we saw kind of blitzing hard court Grand Slams all those years ago. I think sadly her tennis has actually regressed a little bit. I mean, the result against Raducanu, particularly on like return, I think that's a big, their forehand as well. There are just elements of a game now that I think is a bit sad. That I know we talk about this being a psychological issue, but I actually also think her tennis has
not as big anymore.
It's not as big anymore, is it?
It definitely isn't. I was watching that match, and Raducanu was handling the pace as well as she probably has handled pace, and it does make you think she doesn't like playing big hitters, Raducanu. So maybe actually Osaka isn't hitting as big as she used to potentially, or the other girls have caught up in many respects. It was big hitting, hitting left and then right, and then going for broke. And the problem with being a big hitter is you have to believe in your shots. And if you don't believe in your shots, then it actually does completely stop you from being the big hitter because you're worried about missing it. You take some power off and then you become a bit more ordinary. So a big shame there. But I mean, we'll be saying similar things about Stefanos Tsitsipas in a minute, won't we, Joel? Yes. Because so much talent. But I mean,
I know it's an absolute, well, I want to say dumpster fire. Maybe that's a bit too harsh. I mean, the only positive thing I think we can say, or one of the positive things I think we can say and take away, is that it ended amicably despite kind of what happened. I feel like the Tsitsipas Ivanišević situation, it was polite to an extent, but even the words being used in kind of their statements, Stefanos Tsitsipas has parted ways with Goran Ivanišević after a brief but intense coaching spell. I feel like the focus there on the word intense. We've also seen, Chris, some of those interviews, really candid interviews Ivanišević has been given recently about Tsitsipas as well. It felt like this just was not a match made in heaven at all.
It really wasn't. He actually described things as, like a thunderous last few weeks. I think he didn't enjoy the fact that Ivanišević did try and sort of give him this tough love. I mean, Ivanišević has said that...
Do you think Tsitsipas should have been like he should have accepted it? Like, I'm not who I once was, and Ivanišević has given me the reality check here.
I do think that was what Ivanišević was going for. I'm not sure going back to your family is the perfect move. I mean, Ivanišević almost gave him no choice. If you do have a bit of an ego, you're not going to like saying, your coach saying, I've never seen a more unprepared player in my life. Wow. With this knee, I'm 3 times more fit than him. He wants, but he doesn't do anything. I mean, surely when I heard that, I just thought there's no way that they can kind of be a good match.
I want this partnership to continue. It's like a soap opera.
It is like a soap opera.
Tsitsipas's coaching story is a soap opera.
It is, but I always get confused as to like what's actually going on, because Tsitsipas has injuries, back injury as well, but he's then still playing. He still played the Hopman Cup, doesn't take weeks off. I don't think it's he's very serious about it. And I always remember watching him in the Stockholm Open, and he looked so down when he was playing, practicing with his family. It did not look like that was someone who was energized to do well that day. So I think that Tsitsipas working back with his family, I mean, we've seen Zverev looking for external influence. I think he just didn't find the right external influence. And maybe, Philippoussis, rehiring him, someone who is like close to the family connection, but not necessarily fully integrated might be the move. But I mean, it sounds like Tsitsipas needs to sort himself out before he can necessarily be working with anyone other than his family, who probably maybe are more forgiving than I think I gave them credit.
Well, we'll have to see how the Tsitsipas coaching drama developments unfold, because it just feels
it's not very uplifting, is it?
It's not very uplifting. It's not very stable, and it just doesn't feel it's very conducive to Stefanos Tsitsipas playing decent tennis, and we've sadly not seen that for quite a while now. Yeah,
but since Dubai maybe. But it sounds like some of the comments that Ivanišević made, that maybe it was more what Paula Badosa would be saying after the breakup.
Yeah, maybe. Let's move on and look at the Canadian Open, because we have tennis now, Masters 1000, or a 1000 event, I should say, in Toronto and Montreal for the men and women. Let's look firstly, Chris, at the men's event. Now, the men are in Toronto. Alexei Popyrin, one of the surprise Masters 1000 champions last year, is the defending champion. I feel like the build-up to this has been just a lot of the top players pulling out and saying they're injured, not really want to play. We've got no Sinner, no Alcaraz. Just to give you an idea of how many of the top players have dropped out. Alexander Zverev is the top seed. And before we get into looking at some of the matchups, I am just fascinated to see, because Zverev was the top seed in the Golden Swing, and he historically just does not perform well. I feel like there's an inverse kind of graph going on between how far Zverev gets versus the seed placement he's been given. But maybe this is an opportunity, because he's a previous champion here. This could be an opportunity to kind of right that situation, but the pressure is back on him because of all of these dropouts.
It is, because this is the sort of golden opportunity, to try and get yourself.
It's a weekend event.
It is weekend. I mean, it's pretty much a non-Masters. Clearly, it's been kind of highlighted by this, that if you're going to skip one of the thousands heading into the US Open, you're going to skip Canada, which is a shame, but it's very clear that that's the message here, that they don't want to play 2 slams in the run up to a slam. That's not what they want to do. They don't want to play for all of those weeks in the lead up. They want to peak potentially around the 11th of August, have some time off. They're all going to go and play in the mixed doubles event, and they're probably using this as a bit more of a training block or a time to get rid of those injuries, those pesky injuries you pick up.
And also, who wants to play a final on a Thursday? This is the first time. This is the first year. This is a 12-day event, and Francis Tiafoe actually said the final is on a Thursday. That's garbage. So it
is garbage. We hate a mixed doubles final on a Thursday, let alone.
Why is this happening? I mean, it's the timings, but it just doesn't feel. It doesn't feel right. This does the fact that all these top players are just does not make this feel like a Masters event.
It doesn't. It's off. It's very off. But we have to predict something at this stage, don't we? Like in the weekend field, will we get a surprise champion?
I think we might do. I think we could be on for a similar situation to Alexei Popyrin last year. I don't know where that's coming from though. I'm looking.
Normally, you go
draws.
Fritz, don't you?
Yeah, I'm thinking more like maybe like Benny Shelton.
This could be a good breakthrough for him. Yeah. I was thinking maybe Norrie might do something. Okay. Not saying he's going to win it, but I can see him going pretty deep in the draw. We have got Arthur Thesis back, I believe, after an extended period of injury after that French Open match that he managed to get through. I'm still hoping that Medvedev gets it together at some point this season, because it's getting increasingly difficult to watch. Yep. And Casper, I'd like to see him do well. But again, I mean, there's big draw. There's going to be a lot of uninteresting matches, I have to be honest, before we get to some of those big moments, because some of the quarterfinal clashes will look more like a round of 32 than it would a quarterfinal. So the women's does deliver a little bit more, potentially.
Yeah, but also we've still not got Sabalenka here. Coco Gauff is the top seed. Jessica Pegula is the defending champion. It's Eugenie Bouchard's final tennis tournament as well.
Will you be watching, Joel?
Probably not.
The way Venus Williams dismantled her does not make me think this will be a deep run for her. But
I'm quite intrigued though, because the tennis has started. Coco Gauff's got Danielle Collins as her opening match, which is quite tasty. But yeah, I'm perhaps a little bit more excited by the women's draw than the men's draw.
I would probably agree with you there. I mean, Raducanu's playing right now. She's up a set and a break against Rus, which is very exciting. So there are a few matches that have caught my attention. We've seen Andreescu take out Krejcikova. So there've been some pretty tasty clashes already on the women's side. Not quite as much on the men's side, but either way, I mean, we will be very enthusiastic when we cover it next week, because Joel, we're out of clay. So that's something I'm going to tell you to focus on.
And also, I've just seen bottom half, Anisimova and Swiatek are both there. Could we maybe get a repeat in the semi-finals of Swiatek and Anisimova? Who knows?
You'd love it, wouldn't you?
I would love that. I mean, I'm just fascinated to see how Wimbledon champion Swiatek gets on. Is this like, second half of the season, we're going to continue on from Wimbledon? How's Anisimova going to bounce back from one of the most one-sided defeats of all time? I think there's quite a few more interesting stories, perhaps, on the women's side. Do we want to make some very quick predictions? Like, this is on the fly. Men and women's champion.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay.
I'm not feeling confident, but who are we going for the men, Joel?
I'm going to go for American. I'm going to say Ben Shelton, and I'm going to say I'm going to say Ben Shelton and Rybakina.
Ooh, I'm going to go Shapovalov. I'm going to say he's going to continue his good run of form. I don't think Coco Gauff's going to win it. I just don't have a good feeling. Otherwise, I would quite like to go for her. I think Andreeva is going to take it. So we've made some bold predictions without being asked to make a bold prediction. Oh, wait, we should. Maybe I'll say Swiatek, to be honest, because who would bet against her based on that last performance?
That makes sense. Yeah, Kim was probably like shaking her head, and then now you've just sort of rescued it, I think.
Yeah, I think she'd be like, this is why I'm on the podcast, because of their predictions. But she has the slam spoon of shame, so she's not much better.
Very, very true. Right, we're going to wrap up our latest catch up there at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you've enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of ATP and WTA action as we head towards Flushing Meadows and the US Open. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite podcasting platforms out there. And if you love what you're hearing, be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as well as hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
And you can stay connected with us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Threads. And the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. And we didn't have a mailbag this week, but if you'd like to submit a mailbag, please do drop us an email at tennisweeklypod@gmail.com or visit our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back next week for another tour catch-up, looking back on all the action so far from Toronto and Montreal. But until then, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.